I stared at the text message for the third time, willing the words to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Something that didn't feel like a knife between my ribs. Mom, we need to talk about the wedding. Brad and I have been discussing it, and we think it's best if you skip the ceremony. You can come to a small family dinner the week after instead. It's just, well, you know how it is. Brad's family is very traditional, and with your situation, it might create uncomfortable questions. Hope you understand. Love you. My situation. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter of my small apartment and looked around at the space I'd called home for the past 8 years. The second-hand furniture I'd carefully chosen from estate sales. The walls I'd painted myself in soft cream because the landlord wouldn't do it. The books, the books stacked in every available corner because I'd never met a story I didn't want to keep. This was my situation. A retired librarian living on a pension in a one-bedroom apartment in Hartford, Connecticut. A woman who wore cardigans from Target and drove a 12-year-old Honda Civic. A mother who, apparently, was too embarrassing to invite to her own daughter's wedding. That was 3 weeks ago. Now, standing in my closet trying to decide what to wear to Thanksgiving, because surely they wouldn't uninvite me from that too, I heard my phone buzz. My son this time. Hey, Mom. So, Jenna and I talked, and we're going to do Thanksgiving at her parents' place this year. It's just easier, you know? They have the bigger house, and honestly, with everything going on with Sarah's wedding and all, it's just a lot. We'll catch up soon, though. Maybe Christmas? I sat down on the edge of my bed, still holding the navy blue dress I'd planned to wear. The dress I'd bought specifically for family gatherings. Because Sarah once mentioned that navy was classy, I'd wanted to look classy for them. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. Not anymore. I was angry. For the first time in the 6 months since this slow erasure had begun, the unreturned calls, the canceled visits, the "we're just so busy" excuses, I was furious. I pulled out my laptop and opened my email. There, in my inbox, was the message I'd been waiting for. Margaret, the contracts are finalized. The studio wants to announce the casting next week, with the press junket scheduled for November 28th, the day before Thanksgiving. They're arranging first-class flights and hotel accommodations in Los Angeles. This is really happening. Your books are going to be movies. All 3 of them. Congratulations. Elena Winters. That was the name on the covers of the books that had sold 14 million copies worldwide. The name on the New York Times bestseller list for 73 consecutive weeks. The name that earned me $2 million last year alone, with another $8 million coming from this movie deal. But my children didn't know Elena Winters was their mother. Nobody did. Except my agent Rebecca, my lawyer David, and my accountant, Linda. The same 3 people who'd been telling me for months that I needed to protect myself. Let me back up. It started 18 months ago, right after my husband Paul died. He'd been a high school English teacher, and together we'd lived modestly but happily. He knew about my writing, he'd been my first reader, my biggest cheerleader, but we'd agreed to keep the pen name secret. Paul worried that the attention would change our lives, and I loved our quiet existence. After he passed, I noticed something shift in how Sarah and Michael treated me. At first, I thought it was grief. We were all processing loss differently. But then came the questions about money. Mom, what exactly did Dad leave you? Have you thought about selling the house? This was when I still owned our small 3-bedroom in West Hartford, before I sold it and moved to the apartment. We're just worried about you, managing on your own. But they weren't worried. They were calculating. I discovered this 6 months ago quite by accident. I'd stopped by Sarah's house to drop off some of Paul's books she'd wanted. She wasn't home, but the back door was unlocked. She'd always been careless about that. I let myself in to leave the box in her kitchen. That's when I heard her voice from the home office. On a phone call. No, Mom doesn't have anything. Dad's teacher pension is tiny. And she worked at a library, for God's sake. She's probably got, $60,000 in savings? Maybe less? Sarah laughed. It was not a kind sound. Brad's worried she's going to become our financial responsibility. His parents are already judging us for my family's circumstances. I stood frozen in her kitchen, the box of Paul's beloved Hemingway collection still in my arms. Michael and I have been talking, Sarah continued. When she can't afford that apartment anymore, maybe we can convince her to move in with him and Jenna. We can't have her here. Brad would die. His family already thinks he married down. I set the box down silently and left through the back door. That night, I called Rebecca. I need to do something with my money, I told her. Something they can't touch. Rebecca connected me with David Chen, an attorney who specialized in asset protection. Over the next month, I moved everything into an irrevocable trust. I set up LLCs for my writing income. I bought 3 investment properties in different states, all under corporate entities. I made sure that if my children ever tried to claim they deserved part of my estate, there would be nothing in my personal name to take. Why are you doing this? David had asked during one of our meetings. These are your kids. Exactly, I'd said. They're adults who should be building their own lives, not waiting for mine to end so they can have what I've worked for. But I'd still hoped I was wrong about them. I'd still wanted to believe that what I'd overheard was just a moment of weakness, of stress, of grief-induced ugliness. Then came the wedding invitation. Heavy cardstock, elegant calligraphy, my name spelled correctly for once. I'd cried when I opened it. For 2 weeks, I'd believed I still had my daughter. Then came the text uninviting me. I called her that night. Sarah, honey, what's going on? Did I do something wrong? Mom, don't make this harder than it has to be. Her voice was tight, uncomfortable. Brad's family is very well off. They're paying for half the wedding. When they ask about you, what am I supposed to say? That you live in a tiny apartment and drive a car older than some of the guests? You could say I'm your mother. Mom, please. Just try to understand. This is my big day. I don't want anything to overshadow it. Meaning me. Meaning your situation? Yes. She was frustrated now, like I was being deliberately difficult. Michael agrees with me, by the way. We both think it's easier if you just give us some space right now, until we're more established and don't have to worry so much about appearances. I was 62 years old. I'd raised these 2 children by myself most days while Paul worked 2 jobs to keep us comfortable. I'd read them stories every night, never imagining that one day I'd be writing the kind of stories that millions of people wanted to read. I'd sacrificed vacations, new cars, nice clothes, all so they could have piano lessons and soccer camps and college funds. And I was an embarrassment. I understand, I'd said quietly. I'll stay away. 3 months later, here I was. The day before Thanksgiving, packing for Los Angeles instead of making sweet potato casserole for children who'd decided I wasn't worth the trouble. Rebecca had tried to convince me to tell them. Margaret, you don't have to live like this. You have millions. You could have any life you want. I have the life I want, I told her. What I don't want is to find out my children only love me when I'm useful. Now I knew. The morning of November 28th, I boarded the first-class flight to LAX. The studio had arranged everything car service, a suite at the Beverly Wilshire, a stylist to help me prepare for the press conference. For one day, I wasn't Margaret Hayes, embarrassing mother. I was Elena Winters, best-selling author whose trilogy was being adapted by one of the biggest directors in Hollywood. The press conference was surreal. Cameras everywhere, journalists asking questions about my inspiration, my writing process, my overnight success that had taken 20 years of writing before bed and on weekends. The studio announced that they'd cast A-list actors for all 3 films, with the first scheduled to premiere next Christmas. Miss Winters, you've been remarkably private throughout your career, one reporter said. Why reveal yourself now? I thought about Sarah's wedding happening at that very moment, 3,000 miles away. The ceremony I wasn't good enough to attend. Because I'm done hiding, I said. What I didn't know was that my daughter-in-law, Jenna, was scrolling through Twitter during her lunch break at the school where she taught. She was bored. Michael had gone to Sarah's wedding without her apparently. There hadn't been room in the budget for a +1 for him, Another sign of how little my children thought of their own family's worth. Jenna saw the trending topic. Number Elena Winters. She clicked it. Curious. She'd read all 3 books. Loved them. Even taught one in her high school English class. Then she saw the photo of me at the press conference. She called Michael 17 times. He finally answered during the cocktail hour. What? I'm at Sarah's wedding. This better be. Your mother is Elena Winters. Silence. Michael. Are you listening? Your mother is Elena Winters. The author. The one whose books I've been reading to you at night. The one who just signed an $8 million movie deal. Your mother. I found out about this call later. What happened next? I witnessed myself. I was back in my hotel suite, changed into comfortable clothes, ordering room service, and thinking about watching a movie, when my phone started buzzing. First Michael, then Sarah, then Michael again, then Sarah. I let them go to voicemail. Sarah's message. Mom, oh my God, Mom. Please call me back. I just saw the news. Why didn't you tell us? This is... Mom, we need to talk. Please. Michael's message. Mom, what the hell? Jenna just showed me. You're Elena Winters? How long have you been? We need to discuss this. Call me immediately. 6 more calls. 4 more voicemails. Then the text started. Sarah. Mom, I'm so sorry about the wedding. It was a mistake. I was stressed, and Brad was pressuring me, and I wasn't thinking clearly. Please call me. Michael. We should have been there to support you today. I can't believe you did this alone. Let me fly out to LA. We need to celebrate together. Sarah. Mom, please don't ignore me. I know I messed up, but I'm your daughter. We're family. This is huge. And we should be sharing this moment. Michael. I'm booking a flight right now. Where are you staying? I turned off my phone and ordered a bottle of champagne. The next morning, Thanksgiving, I woke up to find that my assistant... Yes. Elena Winters had an assistant now, a wonderful woman named Kelly, who handled my media requests, had forwarded me dozens of interview requests. Every major morning show wanted me. The New York Times wanted a profile. Vogue wanted a photo shoot. They want to know your story, Kelly wrote. The librarian, who became one of the most successful romance authors in the world. It's incredible, Margaret. What do you want me to tell them? I thought about it. Then I called David, my lawyer. I want to do the interviews, I said. But I want to tell the truth. All of it. Are you sure? David knew about Sarah and Michael. I'd told him everything during one of our planning sessions, when he'd asked why I was being so aggressive about protecting assets from my own children. I'm sure. Over the next week, I did 3 major interviews. I told them about Paul, about writing late at night after he fell asleep, about the joy of creating worlds where love always won. I told them about keeping it secret because we valued privacy. And then I told them about what happened after Paul died. My children didn't know about my success, I said during the Today Show interview. I'd planned to tell them eventually, when the time was right. But then I discovered that they were embarrassed by what they thought was my financial situation. I was uninvited from my daughter's wedding because I wasn't wealthy enough to fit in with her fiancé's family. I was disinvited from Thanksgiving because I was inconvenient. The interviewer's eyes went wide. They didn't know you were a multimillionaire? No. And when they found out, suddenly I was worth talking to again. But by then, I'd already learned the truth about what they valued. I didn't name Sarah or Michael in the interviews. I didn't have to. Within 2 days, someone on Twitter had connected the dots. Sarah Hayes, who'd gotten married on November 28th, at the same time her mother was being revealed as Elena Winters. Michael Hayes, my son, whose Facebook profile showed him checking in at LAX on December 2nd with the caption, "Family Emergency." The internet did what the internet does. It found everything. Sarah's wedding photos, showing a lavish event that reportedly cost over $100,000 with no mother of the bride in sight. Michael's LinkedIn, showing he worked at a financial services firm, with people commenting, Guess he didn't inherit his mom's money management skills. Brad's family, those very traditional, very wealthy people, apparently saw the news too. According to what I later pieced together from various sources, they were not pleased to discover that Brad had married into a family with significant wealth that he'd failed to mention. There were questions about why he hadn't done his due diligence, questions about what else he might be hiding. My phone kept ringing. I kept not answering. Finally, on December 10th, there was a knock on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole and saw both of my children standing there. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "Mom," Sarah's eyes were red. "Please, we need to talk. We're sorry," Michael added. "We messed up. We were wrong. But we're still your kids. That has to count for something." I looked at these two people I'd raised. I'd loved them more than anything in this world. I still did. But I also finally loved myself enough to know what I had to do. "You're right," I said. "You are my children, and I will always love you. But I also know now that you were willing to erase me from your lives when you thought I had nothing to offer you, that you were ashamed of me, that you didn't want me around." "Mom, we were idiots." Sarah was crying now. "Please." I called off the wedding. Brad and I. We're not together anymore. His family, it doesn't matter. I need my mom. "You needed a mother when she was successful," I said gently. "You didn't need one when she was just Margaret." "That's not fair," Michael's voice rose. "You lied to us too." "I never lied. I lived within the means of my librarian pension. I never asked you for anything. I never made my success your business because I wanted you to build your own lives." I paused. "But you're right. I did withhold information because 6 months ago, I overheard Sarah on the phone, calculating how little I had, discussing how I'd be your financial burden, and I realized I needed to protect myself. Even from you." Sarah's face went white. "You heard that?" "I heard it. And I chose to believe you might still change, that maybe you were just processing grief badly. But then came the wedding. Then came Thanksgiving. You made your choices clear. So what now?" Michael's jaw was tight. "You're just going to cut us out? Over mistakes?" "No. I'm going to love you from a distance. I'm going to hope that someday you'll understand that I have value beyond what I can give you or how I make you look. When you can see me that way, really see me, my door will be open." "This is because of Brad's family, isn't it?" Sarah's tears had turned to anger. "They ruined everything. If they hadn't been so judgmental." "No, honey, this is because of you. You chose their approval over your own mother. You made that choice." I started to close the door. "Mom, wait," Michael put his hand against it. "What about Christmas? Can we try?" I thought about it. Thought about setting a table for 3, watching them pretend everything was fine, accepting their forced affection now that they knew the truth. "I'm spending Christmas in Paris," I said. "The publisher is sending me on a book tour. I'll be gone for 3 weeks. I didn't tell them that Rebecca had suggested the tour, that she'd seen what was happening and said, 'You need to live your life now. Really live it. Not the small life you thought you had to live. The big one you've earned.' I didn't tell them that I'd already started dating someone, a kind, funny man I'd met at a writer's conference who knew me as Elena and loved me anyway, who thought my cardigan collection was charming and my Honda Civic was perfectly reliable. I didn't tell them that I'd set up education trusts for my future grandchildren if Sarah or Michael ever had children that they couldn't access until those kids turned 25. That I'd made provisions in my will for them, but nothing like what they'd probably hoped for. Most of my estate was going to literacy programs and libraries. I didn't tell them that I was happy. Truly, genuinely happy for the first time since Paul died. "Paris," Sarah repeated dully. "Yes, and after that maybe London. Or Rome. I haven't decided yet." "You're really doing this," Michael said. "You're choosing strangers over your own family." "No," I said gently. "I'm choosing myself. Something I should have done a long time ago." I closed the door, That night, I opened my laptop and started writing again. Not a romance this time. Something different. A story about a woman who spent her whole life making herself small so others could feel big. About the day she decided to take up space instead. I titled it, The Inheritance. My children left 17 more voicemails over the next 2 weeks. Apologizing, pleading, arguing, bargaining. I listened to every one, and then I deleted them. On Christmas Eve, I was in a cafe in the Marais district of Paris, drinking hot chocolate and watching snow fall on the cobblestones, when my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Grandma. This is Emma, Uncle Michael's daughter. I'm 16 now, and Mom finally gave me your number. I read all your books. They're amazing. I don't know what happened with you and Dad and Aunt Sarah, but I wanted you to know. I'm proud of you, and when I'm 18, if it's okay, I'd like to visit you. Love, Emma. I sat there for a long time, watching the snow, crying quietly into my hot chocolate. Then I wrote back, Hi, Emma, I'd love that. I'm proud of you too, and I'm here whenever you're ready. Some families are the ones we're born into. Some families are the ones we choose. Some families are the ones who choose us back. I didn't know yet which category my children would fall into, but I knew which category I fell into for myself. The family of one I'd finally learned to value, and that was enough. I finished my hot chocolate, pulled on my new cashmere coat, a gift to myself, and walked out into the Paris snow. Somewhere back in Connecticut, my children were probably gathering for Christmas, probably talking about me, probably still not understanding. But I was here. I was Elena. I was Margaret. I was both and neither, and everything in between. And for the first time in my life, I was free.